Yeah, I haven't seen that Warren and
No, because I'm looking to go to medicine, but medical engineering that's a huge interest. I guess it's sort of some sort of. Because I was thinking, I'm coming here like a prospective medical student, like what I'm talking about. I've done good fun.
I guess I grab you from there, because Stephen will need to sit there during this session.
Can we take our seats, please? If we could take our seats. Thank you, everyone. If we could take our seats, please. So, just like stand-up comedy, the secret to running a good conference is timing. And I was going to say we're bang on 12, and it's just gone 12:01. But never mind. We are now going to move on into our next session. It's slightly different from what we've done before. Previously, we've been looking at some of the strategic level stuff, but instead we want to now talk about individuals' experience. How we drive that change in hearts and minds, particularly around bringing people into industry, careers. And we want to talk to some of the people who are directly involved in that discussion. Again, I'm not going to say too much more, but I'm going to introduce Stephen Cole, who's head of careers at CITB, who's going to introduce us to a panel who have that direct experience. Stephen, can I ask you to take the stage?
Right, thank you very much. I'm Stephen Cole. I joined CITB last year, September, as Head of Career Strategy. And in that time, I've learnt quite a bit about the sector, blown away by the real lack of diversity within the sector. I won't bore you with the stats. Actually, I will bore you with the stats. Depending on where you look, we have something like 4% BME within the sector, maybe 9 to 12% of women within the sector. And this is a sector asking, really faced with the challenges of delivering on a £600 billion project pipeline. And in order for us to address this issue, we need to make sure we tap into the talent that we have across the board, not just within set communities. It's great hearing about lots of the different initiatives that we've spoken about today. I'm one of the beneficiaries of flexible working. My last job at University of Westminster, I was there for 12 years. 12 years. And this because of flexible working. I was able to be a dad, play all my different roles, and to do a good job. And I think there is something about retaining people through really positive, flexible working practices. We are about to, as an organisation and and on behalf of industry, we're about to commence on a careers campaign to attract the next generation to the sector. We are hoping for a soft launch in August. And one of the key things I've been talking to my employer contacts about is how do we make sure that the destination of these people that we engage with as part of the campaign is one is welcoming, supportive, fair, and inclusive. And I think, without a doubt, one of the ways we can do this is really promoting the excellent work that we're doing around fairness, inclusion, and respect. In our sector, we talk quite a bit about trailblazers. It's my absolute pleasure to introduce to you our own very own trailblazers. We have Lauren, Tolu, and Janice, who obviously supports them. What we'll do is we'll run through quick, really brief introductions. And if I start with Lauren, very quickly.
I'm Lauren, I'm a roofer and I work for Wythenshawe Community Housing Group.
Great. Tolu?
Good afternoon, my name is Tolu and I'm a student at LD, London Design and Engineering UTC, currently studying an engineering diploma, maths and physics.
Yeah.
Hello there, hi, my name's Janice Trix. I've just started work at the London Design and Engineering University Technical College in a careers and advisory and an employment engagement capacity.
Great, thank you very much. So you would notice that I used the word trailblazer earlier on, and I don't use that word lightly. I don't put you under pressure, but I will do. Lauren has a very unique and really amazing story to tell about her journey. Do you want to say something about how you got into construction and the specific trades that you're in?
I got into construction, basically I was working in human resources for the same company that I work for now. I started there on a 6-month administration assistant temporary contract. From there I got a 12-month human resources apprenticeship. When that was coming to the end, obviously being in human resources, I get to see the opportunities that are coming up within the company. I noticed that labouring positions were coming up on the roofing team. I sat and had a discussion with 7 ladies that I worked with in the office at the time. All of them told me to go for it. I begged the manager to give me a trial. I even told him I'd work for free for a couple of weeks to show him what I could do. From there, I gained a 6-month labouring contract. It went to 12 months, 18 months, and it finally became permanent. And I've been on it 6 years now. I'm now a fully qualified roofer. I've been qualified about 3 years. And I'm still here today. They give me the day off to be here today.
Wonderful, wonderful. And that clearly is an example of an organisation that's prepared to give an opportunity to someone who's clearly talented, allow a progression for them from human resources into something completely different there. So that's an excellent story. Tolu, do you want to say something about your current experiences?
My current experiences with engineering wasn't as straightforward, where coming straight fresh from finishing my GCSEs on results day, my thoughts were, what am I going to do with my life? At that point, it was like, I do not know what to do. I don't know where to go next. But I knew that I had a passion for making things, doing things myself, and then putting it out there and showing and just making a difference and making things better for people, which is one of the reasons why I chose to go to LDE UTC, because it was a school that focuses on design and engineering. And from then on, even as an engineering student, I didn't know what sector within engineering I wanted to go to. And I remember while making my choices, I said, I definitely do not want to go into civil engineering. I definitely do not want to go into construction, because at my age, you only hear about the stereotypical, it's men doing everything, it's labouring, and you don't see females there, and it's not necessarily encouraged and didn't seem engaging. So I was like, okay, I'm not going in. But once I started my course, going through the different units that we had, I noticed that I enjoyed design and modelling, and that was the basis of my journey into engineering. And then I began to look for work experience into the different sectors. And because my school is a very construction-led school, it meant that I had the exposure to different companies such as Costain, Tideway, Skanska, Thames Water, and our schools are linked and partnered with them as well. So it kind of opened that up. And being a girl with my dad, I was always involved with the DIY and things like that. So whenever now I go home and there's something to fix, my dad's like, go fix it. You are the engineer in the house now. So that's my journey with engineering at the moment.
Right. And Janice, just to touch on that, you're in a new role supporting students like Tolu with the careers element.
Yeah, absolutely. I had this role at another UTC, funnily enough, which was based out in Dagenham, and that was very much mechanical focused, set up some programs and projects there. So when I come to LDE just a couple of months ago, I'm the baby, I think, of all the staff in the college. It was taking on a whole new perspective for me within the construction industry, which is something that I've always had a bit of a thing for, I suppose. Getting in touch, speaking to people like the CITB, working with our partners, Costain, Skanska, etc., is really sort of starting to pull some projects together. Most importantly, a new project that I'm working on with Balfour Beatty, and I know there's some Balfour Beatty guys here, which is to do with industry mentoring for our students, which actually starts tomorrow. So, you know, fingers crossed everything's going to work out really well with that. But it's just thinking of new ways of engaging our young people with industries to give them that real tie-in and to show industry that there is a pipeline of talent that comes through schools like ours who are very focused on delivering young people from a wide range of backgrounds into some promising careers within great industries. So,
Thank you. And Tolu, you mentioned when we spoke earlier on that you went to an all-girls secondary school.
Yeah.
What was your first experience of employer engagement? What did the person look like, and how did that? What impact did that have on you?
Going to an all-girls school, you're not necessarily encouraged to go into design, engineering, although we did have the typical subjects such as fine art, fashion, but I wasn't necessarily interested in that, so it kind of turned me away from all forms of design and engineering, technology based. And even when I went back to my secondary school for a school evening, students and females there weren't encouraged. They didn't want to go into it because there was no exposure of engineering within the school. Even though there was a small STEM group, it was only within encouraging the science aspect of it, not the engineering aspect, not the aspects that allows them to be more creative and more open-minded and show more innovation that they do have, because the school I went to, there are a lot of girls who can bring so much impact into this construction company. And if the exposure and the availability and just being able to show that there are opportunities available and just showing the different students that it's not all male, that whatever a male can do, a female can do 20 times better because we are better at multitasking. So it's just showing that they can come and showing that the skills that they have, yes, they may not have everything necessary, but you can build your skills. You're always learning wherever you go. And that's one of the main reasons why I'm also really passionate about being in engineering as a female.
Great, thank you. Lauren, Lauren is also a mum of two, and she made that transition from HR to construction whilst being a mum of two. What kind of challenges did you face as you were making that transition through your employer from HR to roofing?
The hardest thing when I started the position, the hours of work are 7:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. 4 days a week we work compressed hours, Monday to Thursday. I did start the position on those hours. I think I lasted 2 weeks. It just wasn't working for me. I was being late every morning. The school gates didn't open until 7:30, so it was impossible for me to be at two places at once. So I did pull my manager aside and I said to him it wasn't working. And he changed the hours for me. I now start at 8 a.m, so it gives me a chance to get my children to school and then get to site, and I work an extra day a month over the lads, so I do one Friday a month, and my life just became so much easier. That was the biggest challenge really. Going on site, They kept me on the ground for a couple of days, picking up nails in a bucket. I think they were a bit scared of letting me on a scaffold. But once I was up there, you know, and again, the respect to the lads, it's been nothing. Every day is I learn something new. Every day is laughter. I'm a firm believer that working in construction drastically improves your mental health. It gives you confidence. It sends you home happy. You leave your work at your door. So I think the main challenge for me was the childcare. And speaking to my girls and telling them that I was going to work in roofing. They didn't believe me at first, but now they walk past me when they're in school. I've done the properties. My girls' school, the full road. I've done all the roofs. They walk past with their friends at home time and they see me up on the tip of a roof sitting next to a chimney and they're amazed, so they love it. And I think it's been the best thing I've ever done.
How did you feel about having that conversation with your manager? Did you feel there was an environment where you could, or did you require a level of confidence to have that conversation?
Yeah, it requires a level of confidence because I am the only person, and being the only female, people will look at it just because she's female, and it's not. It's because I'm a single parent. We do have single dads on site as well, and they've come forward and they now do the same hours of work as me. So it's not just gender related. It's purely because of the children.
Yeah, and it's a classic case of why, you know, making reasonable adjustments really benefits everyone. It's not just women; it's men who are also single dads as well. It's a really excellent point. Back to Tolu again. In terms of your ability to progress your interest in engineering and or construction, what would have made things easier for you?
I think for me, the one thing that would have made it a lot more easier would be the visibility and work experience. Yes, there are companies that do offer work experience, but the steps and the processes which you have to take can sometimes be very long, overwhelming, especially for people like me who didn't, although had a little background of the DIY aspect, don't necessarily have the full knowledge and the full breadth of kind of wisdom that you need to be able to go in. Just being able to have the visibility of work experience there, or even taster sessions where it's just a day where they could shadow an engineer or someone on site if it was a construction, or someone in the office, or have a mentor or a mentoring session like what we do at our school, where they can speak to the mentor about where they want to be, the careers they want to go in, and that it would be better if the mentor was also within the industry or doing the thing that they want to do, because then it gives them inspiration, aspiration, and something to motivate and work towards.
Does it matter if that mentor is female?
Honestly, if it was a female, it matters a lot more, because as a female, although most of the females in construction that I've seen are mostly administrators or office workers. It's not very inspiring. I'm the type of person who does get bored very easily, so I cannot do enough general, typical office desk work. I can't, because it's not within my personality. So if it was a female who was out there in the field working, suddenly opens your mind and think, wow, there's something I can do, and I don't have to sit on the table staring at a computer for 8 to 10 hours just looking at words, or or sit in the meetings that don't necessarily interest me, or doing things that I don't want to do, even though it's the sector in which I want to go into.
Correct, thank you. Janice, want to make a point?
Yeah, I just wanted to come in there, which is one of the reasons I think why I've been quite passionate since I've started at London Design Engineering and building this new programme with Balfour Beatty, is because my question to them was, you know, my young ladies, my young men here, year 12, year 13, if you could transfer yourself back, these are graduates, so they're very much closer to their age than I'm going to be. So it was about asking them, what would have helped you to get to where you are? If you was a young person, what kind of things can we do? What can we work together to bring to these? And we was covering, you know, sort of a multitude of areas. One of them was about having that the practice and having the meaningful experiences, not just a work experience for work experience sake, but actually going into a construction company, even for one day, as Tolu just said, one day of meaningful work experience is worth so much more than a week of just treading across a whole process. Absolutely. And that is what we're sort of trying to build with them, and hopefully we will be able to take it out and have other industries that will follow that blueprint, and we can sort of, you know, become a little bit more diverse. But primarily we are sort of in the construction fields currently. So yeah.
I mean, just to add to that, in my previous role, I co-founded and set up a really small mentoring program targeted at the bulk of the students at the university who are, generally speaking, from underrepresented groups within society. And what I found as we launched the program, the demand was huge. And as we were tracking their development, there was a real sense of social mobility there. You know, we connected these young learners with people within industry, and as a result of that relationship, some were progressing into graduate level roles they never thought they could secure in the first place. So I think there's a real powerful narrative there about the importance of having social capital, someone within industry that you can bounce ideas off and inspire you to make that next move to the next stage of your career. Lauren, when you first moved back into the roofing and you were on site with all these men, what was their initial thoughts?
They thought I'd come from undercover boss. For the first year, actually, they just give me a list. You know, when you come out, we want this, we want to go on holiday, we want a car, we want this. It went on for a good year until they realised, you know, she's here to stay. But I never had, and I know people have different experiences, but I never had anything that made me go home and think, you know, I don't want to be in this career. The only thing was that they was a bit edgy on putting me on the tools and letting me get on the roof straight away and showing them what I can do. That was it. Other than that, you know, they've treated me with respect. We've become the best of friends. We communicate in and out of work now. But that was, yeah, they thought I wasn't there to stay.
You also mentioned that you're part of a group at work, yes, where, you know, they can almost bring issues to you.
When I started in the position, we have one-to-ones and appraisals. We have one-to-ones every month, and that's the opportunity to tell your manager, you know, what else you want to do in the company. If you want to do some volunteering, I made it clear that I didn't want to give up my full off. I wanted to come out of the office, but I still wanted to be a part of the company, because working on site, I do work for housing association, but it's very cut off. You know, we work on site, we don't go in the offices, we work on site and we go home. So my manager it's called Your Voice. It's just members of the company that come together with issues that people have that necessarily don't need to go to human resources. And when I was given that position, I felt that the lads, they put more trust in me, because now any issue they have, they come to me. I'm the first aider on site. I'm the health and safety champion on site. They come to me with any issues, anything they've got going on. You know, Lauren, will you sort this? Lauren, who can I ring? They don't really know anyone in the office department, where I've come out of the office department. Lauren, you know this lady, you sort this for me. You speak, I don't like speaking over the phone. I do all the conversations for the lads on site. So yeah, I think that brought us closer. Whether my manager, it was intentional for him to use that to bring us closer, I don't know, because I did make it clear that I wanted to stay on the office environment in some part, but it has definitely brought us closer as a team. Excellent. It's brought me closer to the team.
Excellent. I mean, one of the things I, again, was blown away by was the serious issue around mental health within the sector, and I think these types of conversations will obviously help to address some of the root causes of mental health issues on site. I want to ask the audience if they've got any questions before I round up. Any questions? Yeah.
What do your friends think, and family? What did they think before you went in, and what are their thoughts now after you joined the industry?
Before I went in, it was a bit of a joke. Now I'm here, my friends, you know, I get a pat on the back every day. I walk around. If you see me wearing my uniform, I'm in the scruffy boots. You ever seen them in a scruffy uniform, scruffy high vis, and I'm walking around on my own. But I get a pat on the back everywhere I go. And when I'm working on the roofs, even tenants come out, because I work in my local community. So 90% of the time I'll know the tenants whose roof we're doing that day. So they do come out and they give me a pat on the back, and you've made us feel a lot more comfortable that you're on here. I've had nothing but praise off friends and family.
For me, it's kind of similar to Lauren, actually, where at first in engineering, because I'm still studying engineering at the moment and we have a different range of units, at first it was very difficult trying to know what to do. And now it's like all the boys come to me. So in my class, out of 15, I'm the only girl. So out of the 70 students that study engineering in our school, in my year group, only 2 girls study engineering. So in most of the classes, I'm the one they come to, especially recently with the deadlines for the coursework. They've all come, Tolu, I need help, I need help. And so it's fun helping others, and especially if you've got the knowledge, it's best to share it out, and it's something I love doing, so yeah.
Yeah.
Don't start until I got here, sorry.
Richard Knight from Grafter. Question for Lauren. Would you encourage your daughters to go into follow your career path, and how would you help them do that?
Yes, I've been in roofing 6 years now. For the past 4 years, I've tried to give my girls a kick up the buttons. You know, my daughters are 10 and 11. My 11-year-old, I can already see there's no chance. She's all makeup, hair and nails. My youngest is quite boisterous. She's all into sports, identical to me when I was younger. So I've had conversations about, would you like to work on the roof? How would you feel in working in construction? No, mummy, I want her own ice cream van at the moment. But I do think I would push them to it, because it's a sense of achievement, and you know, the level of respect. I think some people do think, you know, a woman on site, she probably takes a load of rubbish every day. But it's not like that for me. I work with 20 men. I'm the only woman. I've gained huge respect off all the men that I work with. I'm on a team of 6 people. We have 3 teams, all of 6, and we have a few floaters. Every single one of them, when they need something doing, can we have Lauren on the job? We've got a target to meet, can we have Lauren on the job? So that level of respect, for me, it'd be what I'd want my daughter to go into it. I wouldn't shy her away because she's going to get her hands dirty. So yeah, definitely, I'm going to push my youngest anyway.
I was having a very interesting it was a breakfast session last week, hosted by a very inspirational guy called Jack Parsons, who helps young people into work. And one of the things we were trying to address is how do you break those stereotypes at a much lower level? So it's not 11, 12, 13-year-olds, it's 5 or 6-year-olds. And you know, why didn't your daughter want to be Bob the Builder at?
I have been into 2 schools since I've been in roofing. I volunteer alongside the Women in Roofing with Denise Cherry. We went into my daughter's school and we give a presentation to 7-year-olds, 3 classes of 7-year-olds. We've been in 2 schools, and the first school we went in, there was different people there was nurses, there was bus drivers, there was train drivers, all explaining what they do, and we push on health and safety, but we took our tools in. I took my tool belt, I took my hammer, we took a still saw, we took a drill, we took an angle grinder, we took a lot of tools. And at the end of the presentation, the children got an opportunity to go to which stand you want to go to. And the queue was, everyone was at the roofing stand, and it's because it's practical. The children all you need to do is keep it practical. I think it's a major factor from 6, 7 years old. You have to be keeping them hands-on, you have to be keeping them practical. Otherwise, they're not going to adjust from something later on in life. You know, I haven't been practical, I've sat behind the table doing my schoolwork. I'm more than likely going to go into an office and do schoolwork. I think you have to keep practical in school, and I'm not 100% certain if they do construction as an option in school. I haven't looked into any of that, but I know primary school, it isn't spoken about. They don't know anything until you go in there. And you know, I've had some of the kids sat there shouting, you know, my dad's a roofer, you can't do roofing. And you have to have the conversation and laugh it off. But I do think it needs to be in their face, and you need to keep them hands on to keep them interested.
How you doing? Ricky Brent, working for Costains. What's next on your development plan? For me, I find it hard to find foremen that come through with CVs that are female. I'm quite fortunate to take one on, because I've had one woman female submit a CV. What's next for you? It sounds like you're quite a good leader. Would you go up to supervisor foreman?
My dream would be to run a roofing team, but I do work for a housing association, and it is limited. They do have a structure. You can only have a certain amount of roofers. We have our charge hands. You know, I'm way back in a long line of men that have been there for 10 years waiting for promotion. It is all about my children. When my children get to high school and I feel like I can venture, because I work local, I work 5 minutes away from my doorstep, and that is perfect for me, because my employers, you know, you go to parents' evening, you can go to all the children's assemblies, they don't take it off me, just nip out and come back to site. and I wouldn't give that up. You know, I've recently turned a job offer down. It was for more money. It was for, you know, everything was better to do with the role. The only reason I turned it down is because I can't be that far away from my children yet until they're in high school, because I'm the only person that they depend on. It gives you, any parents, mum, dad, it gives you anxiety being that far away, knowing they've got nobody else there. So I did turn it down purely on, give me 3 years, let me get my children in high school, let them get settled, and from there I'm going to pursue to either run my own roofing team or somewhere in the property, maybe a roofing surveyor, something along the lines. I enjoy nitpicking, so something along that lines I'd enjoy.
All right, okay. Just before we round up, I'm going to go around and ask you one piece of advice you'd give to employees who are in the room now, and to other mums, and for you, Janice, what would make life easier for you in terms of your employee engagement activities. So let's start with Lauren again.
To employers, I would say advertise more, make people aware that you do offer flexible working, that you will work around them with their children. And for mums, I think mums and dads, I don't think it's male or female, I think it's capability. If you're capable and you haven't got the confidence, go somewhere and gain confidence first, and then come into it and see where you get from there. You know, I've worked with men that are not capable of roofing, and I've worked with some women that have come on for a day and they're not capable of it. So you know if you can climb a ladder, you know if you can catch a tile, if you're capable, just find the confidence and go for it, because it pays well. Flexible working still gives you a chance to be a mum. The teamwork, it gives you a sense of family, it sends you home happy, and the fact that you do in construction 90% of the time, you're leaving your work, as you leave, you're leaving your work there, so there's no stress taking home. So I think a lot of mums would jump at the opportunity if it was open and it was there for them to take.
So there's a real word there about making these opportunities visible and articulating what opportunity looks like for those working in that sector. Tolu?
Mine was literally going to be the same as Lauren, because the one thing I struggled with was work experience. And with the work experience, it needs to be a set in stone structure. Because if you were to offer a student work experience and it's not set in stone, you technically discouraged the student from coming in. Because my first work experience that I went to, when I went on site, my thought was, I never want to go on site ever again. And then the second work experience I did, I was like, okay, I want to go on site now. I need to get into this. So whatever you prepare for those students during work experience can totally change the perspective of the industry. So at the end of the day, it's up to you to change the perspectives of a young mind and to be able to plant a seed and show, yes, this is what we have here. Make it visible, make it known, and just show them with open arms and say, we welcome you, no matter what school you have, no matter how you come or what you look like, no matter the difference, because at the end of the day, construction is all about diversity, and I have seen diversity in some places that I've been in, and just make it more visible is, I guess, what I want to say.
Thank you. And I think at CITB we're definitely committed to making experience opportunities in all its shapes and sizes very visible to all. Janice?
Yeah, and I think for me, to make my life a little bit easier, is really for companies to reach out to us and offer these placements. I can't get round and speak to everybody everywhere that I go. I do try very hard, actually. And it's not about the number of business cards that I take or, the number of email addresses. It's about the quality that's going to come with those. If the companies could reach out to us, we're an engineering school. We specialise in architecture and built environment, or construction, robotics. We do all of that. That's what we are about. And by the engagement of the employers within our school with either work experience, projects, we do lots of projects and things, we can kind of make this thing happen, and we can give you a pipeline of talented young people. My job is to get as many of my youngsters like Tolu to find her a meaningful placement. It is a new venture of mine, and to make sure that it counts, so that her CV looks amazing, that her application to university looks amazing, and that way she can make a choice. Where do I want to go? What do I want to do? Where can I be the best? And I think that that's the role of somebody like me, to support her in doing that. So yeah, if anybody's out there looking for young people, you know, approach the schools and the colleges, the university technical colleges, because we do have talented youngsters, and you know, they're there waiting for people and opportunities.
Thank you. And I think just to kind of round that up, you know, research that we conducted at CITB around those who are already on FE courses, doing construction type related courses, 60% of those who didn't progress into the sector didn't do so because of a lack of pre-qualification experience. So experience is so vital, and I think the ask for everyone in the room is to really look at how we can open up those opportunities. And I think Open Doors were fantastic, play a really important role in terms of that activity, but I think we need to do a lot more around that to open up those opportunities. On the point of culture and diversity and everything else, I think it's important to realise that we're taking some really good steps at the moment, and that's really important, but I think it's important to remember that it is one conversation at a time, all right? And I think we've heard today it's important to have real difficult conversations, but also keep having them, but also put money behind it to make sure it's not just conversations, but actually real tangible outcomes that we're trying to achieve. So thank you, and thanks to our amazing trailblazers over there. Lauren, round of applause. And Tolu. And of course, Janice, who we roped in last minute. All right, thank you. I believe we've got Mark Reynolds. Yeah, great. Thank you.
So I hope you can all see why we wanted to run that session. In terms of the insight that provided, absolutely brilliant in understanding the specifics about people's real experience. You know, I was picking up just nugget after nugget of just, you know, things that we can do differently, things that we can do better. So my thanks again for the panel for taking the time out. We've now got time for our second keynote. Our second keynote speaker is someone who is another leader of change in our industry, someone who's passionate about the future of this industry and how we can drive that change so we're better tomorrow than we are today. His day job, he's chief executive at Mace, one of the largest organisations delivering buildings and infrastructure in the UK. But if that didn't keep him busy enough, he has also volunteered to be on the Construction Leadership Council, the highest level body for driving change in our industry. Within that, he is the lead of the skills work stream. And I personally, working at Seeker and many other people in the industry, will have seen the positive impact that that has had, driving things like T-levels, apprenticeships, experience of upskilling, and also on some of the issues that we're going to be talking about today. Again, I'm not going to say much more, but I'm going to invite Mark up to give his views. Thank you, Mark.
Good afternoon, everyone. How are you? Good session. Just to kick off, I didn't know this was going to happen actually, but my father was a roofing contractor, and he started his career as as a tradesman, ended up running his own company, and he got caught in some bad times in the recession in 1990. He went back on the tools, him and his mate, and he said, "Do you know what, Mark?" He said, "The worst things that happen to you, I don't know what's worse, the physical work or laughing every day." And that's so true, and that's something we talk about. So, good morning. I've been asked to really talk about, I'm going to talk about a couple of things. One is about something that's affected me and my career, and hopefully that will resonate with many of you in here. And then I'm going to talk about some of the challenges we face. Because I think it's the challenges we face and recognition of those, about how we deal with it. And then some of the things that we're trying to do as part of the Construction Leadership Council with the help from Seeker, Build UK, CITB and others. But let me just talk about my personal experience. In 2002, I started working on Heathrow Terminal 5. We were brought into the project late, just before it was about to begin. And then it was the largest construction project in Europe. One of the things it taught me as an individual is about how to manage big infrastructure programs. And we were bringing some ideas together from other parts of the sector. But one thing BAA at the time, and Heathrow did really well, was a job brokerage program. And I hadn't heard of that before. We've been doing it on a small scale, but doing it on a large scale, bringing together unemployed people with colleges. We had a thing called the Airport Construction Training Alliance, bringing that together with training and development, really important. So these inclusion programs got us on the journey, and it was, 17 years ago. In 2006, I was asked to get involved with a small bid on a little project down in Stratford. I thought we weren't going to win. It was for the delivery partner working with the ODA on the London 2012 Olympics. Again, that was another huge programme and giving people opportunities. And it had a whole series of cross-cutting themes, which were really important at the time. And some things I hadn't realised. So we were lucky, we went through the bid, we won the bid. It was probably the first time I'd actually done any behavioural assessment in a bid process. Needless to say, we failed miserably, but were appointed to the project. One of the first things they did with us as CLM, with the ODA, was put us on diversity training, and unconscious bias training. Now bear in mind, this was 2006, going through diversity and unconscious bias training. And actually, it really highlighted me to the importance of our thinking and how we embedded that in delivering of that whole programme. And that was constant through what we're doing, through some really innovative work we did on the park. We're setting up the Digger School, which was run by JCB, around the apprenticeship programmes. We have a target on London 2012 of employing 2,400 apprentices. We had to get 400 apprentices through the programme during the life of that project. If we failed to do that, every fortnight we were taken up, our colleagues were taken up to Parliament and sat down with Tessa Drow, get there in the end, Tessa Drow, and had to report what we were doing. And if we didn't, we had to go back and recover that. So it was a really interesting programme about inclusion, diversity. And we had to pick up things like inclusion by design as well. So it was diversity in the broadest sense of the term, both in terms of ethnicity, sexuality, and these are things that we just didn't talk about 13 years ago. And the other thing I'm really proud of is actually how major programmes have made a difference. And we shouldn't underestimate the power of major programmes on what we're doing. You only need to look at things like Crossrail, Thames Tideway, High Speed 2. All of these programmes are building on what we're trying to do in the industry. And when I finished on London 2012, I then moved on back into Mace in 2013. 2012 actually, and I moved in as deputy CEO at the time, and there was a path that I knew I was going to go down. So I spent a year looking at the business and the path we wanted to go through. The first thing I did in 2013 was to change our vision statement, was to say that we wanted to help build cities and sustainable communities. And when I said that in 2013, hardly anyone knew what I was talking about. But I've made it clear what we were trying to do over the last 5 years. And today they get it. It isn't, sustainable communities about, not just about our communities, but it's about diversity in our thinking and making sure that we've got a sustainable sector as we move forward. So now I just want to move on to some of the challenges we face in the industry. We did a piece of research last year to understand what was happening in the industry and what would happen over the next few years. And we can see with the next generation of construction, the term that people use, Industry 4.0, that we will need to reskill by 2024, approximately, about 600,000 workers. 600,000 workers. And that is a startling change that we have to go through as an industry. If you look more closely around the great research work that the CITB do, and the CITB produce every year a network report, Experience Industry Network Report, where they look at the number of skills and trades throughout the country that we need to employ each year. We need to employ 33,000 new people to our industry every year just to stand still. And that's not just bricklayers, carpenters, plasterers, electricians, roofers. That also includes professional management, construction managers, technical managers, designers. These are all critical to our industry as we move forward. And then we have to recognise the diversity in that. You know, the real challenge around diversity. And recently, Stace did a fantastic piece of research. You know, the war for talent that we have in our industry is immense at the present time. And this piece of work done by Stace, just published at the end of the month. And if you get a chance to read it, you know, it's only a 16-page document. It has some really interesting statistics and some insights. And it showed only 7% of the people surveyed would consider construction as their first choice career. 7%. And let's not forget, UK employs 6% of the GDP in this country. But there are other eye-opening stats in there, and this is more worrying for our industry and something we need to address, is that they felt that it was only slightly ahead of armed forces and politics. Can you believe that? People see our career only slightly better than politics. Frightening. And we're way behind healthcare, accounting, and IT. And this isn't just young people we have to reach. What it also said was that 1 in 4 people are influenced by their parents. And 1 in 4 parents or guardians would discourage people from joining our sector. So it's not just young people we've got to influence, it's also the parents and guardians, because they have an influence on what they do day to day. And they also said that, and we were asked about skills within the industry, you know, 41% of them surveyed didn't know what a quantity surveyor was. Personally, I think that's a good thing. More worryingly, 65% didn't know what a structural engineer was. Now, these may be eye-opening stats, but if you read the report, it actually gets worse. You know, it is clear we all know that we've got to recruit a diverse workforce. Almost in every category, BAMI and women scored worse. And some of the areas that we looked at around attracting people into our industry is about, you know, this diversity is really important, and being afraid, even when you're uncomfortable, about asking the question. Ask the question. Never be afraid to ask the question, because more likely the person you are asking that question to doesn't feel uncomfortable about it at all. And actually they're pleased that you've asked the question. So thankfully, you know, and I always look at this as a it's not just a moral issue. This is a business issue for us today. Now, thankfully, you know, the sector is changing for the better. You know, it's not just about what we build. We're not just changing what we build and how we build it, but the way we build it and the approach. You know, things like diversity, drawing on digital skills, technical skills across the whole building life cycle. You know, the competition for people in these skills isn't just the construction industry anymore. We're not just trying to attract people to our industry. We're fighting for people with technological skills. You know, fintech firms, video gaming companies. And a great story I have with about quantity surveyors again, and technology. You know, most of our BIM managers, Tolu, most of our BIM managers are women, and I didn't know this until I started asking them and what they're doing around their business, around the business. And then I asked one to do a presentation, and then I got 3 more, 4 more, 5 more, 15 more back, all doing similar things. And 75% of the women around our BIM group. Now, the funniest thing was we had a PQS, a QS, and a BIM manager. And the BIM manager was able to do the job in 2 days of a takeoff of a whole dry lining package and get it right. And the other 2 spent most of their time either checking their work or fighting. So I'm a real advocate of BIM managers and driving that through the business, because not only is it about, you know, change, but it's actually making a difference. And it's using technology to have that right conversation and make that difference. And we need to be serious about the opportunities, not just, we talk about management and training, but it's actually what's happening on site, what we need to do differently to do things. And when you stick a big tent on the top of a building and then start jacking it in here, people get interested. We're looking at new equipment on site. How we interpret the data and performance gets people interested. Reskilling, different skills. People who've been in the industry for many years doing things differently that excites them. And this creates new job opportunities and shows that we are an industry that are beginning to transform. Now, partly, this is way through public and private innovation and investment in innovation. But what this slide shows, and that's the inside of the big tent, what we called the Jump Factory. And it was a big investment. We took a leap of faith. But in the end, when you're delivering a project, and this is for tall buildings, we found a way of building tall buildings, 1 floor a week, in 55 hours. And that's not just, when I talk about a floor, that's floors, walls, columns, stairs, horizontal risers, bathroom pods, prefabricated utility cupboards, cladding. I did say 55 hours. You're meant to be impressed with that. And this isn't just saving money, but it's reskilling, it's safer, it's a better working environment. It means that people will be attracted to the industry. And this is the important thing we need to do. We need to promote the fantastic innovation and work we're doing in our industry. I was in a business breakfast with London First last week, and someone was moaning about Crossrail. And I said, get over it. I said, it's gone up by 5-6%. It's going to be a year late. It's going to be there for 100 years. And by the way, you, Mr. Developer, are going to make a lot more money out of that scheme. Can we please not talk about this being a terrible project? Let's talk about some of the fantastic things that we're doing and the job opportunities and the real changes. So one of my pleas is, let's not talk ourselves down. Let's promote what we do, because no one else is. And we must work together. One of the things I've learned with the CLC, there is so much duplication that we all try and do. But actually, there's some groups that are doing things far better. And isn't it much easier to get behind that initiative and support that initiative and drive that initiative forward? Because it's the diverse thinking of all of us that makes us better. Now, there are many great organisations out there doing this. Seeker, fantastic work. Build UK, Seeker and Build UK are working together, hand in hand. Some of the great piece of work that Alistair did when the immigration minister asked for to come forward with the shortage occupation list. We said as an industry, let's not go out and do this as separate industries. Let's go together as one industry with our requirements. We got listened to. People understood, for once, the construction sector is working together. And that's what we need to do. So we need to build on that with the CITB, with places like the ICE. Encourage people to go down to the ICE, look at their learning centre. Superheroes, invisible superheroes through our industry. And it was spoken about earlier by Tolu about, some of this. I go back to this STACE report. 88% of the respondents said if they'd had work experience, it would help them choose their industry. And that increases to 92% for BAMI and women respondents. So this is really important that we have, and Tolu, you made a great point around the right work experience. We need to have work experience. It excites people, wants people to come into our industry, give the right sort of training. And we don't have to reinvent the wheel here. We can all, I have a phrase in our business, is stealing one person's ideas is plagiarism. Stealing many is research. Go out and research. It does no harm. But, by all means, give someone the reference for the good work they do. It's really easy, some of the things that we do, incredible stuff we do in here. This Batty Power Station, the reason why I use this, it was actually some work we did with Parkinson's. We were promoting Parkinson's disease on site as one of our initiatives. It's actually Parkinson's Day. And the client supported and got behind and allowed us to actually light up the building differently, promote it. You know, what industries do that? We do fantastic work, and that's what we need to do, is engage with everyone along the way. When we go out to colleges, we encourage people and talk about what's tangible. You know, Lauren said, you know, it was keep it practical. You know, it's a sense of pride of achievement. You know, we all drive past our projects, or hopefully walk or catch the train and go past them and go, you know, I did that, we did that. That's what we love doing. We have a sense of fulfilment that others can't do. So whether you're working on a battery power station, whether you're building homes, regenerating a city, town, creating a new transport loop, these things are tangible. And, you know, where else do you get to work in teams? Where do you work in teams, in a team environment, that you can have a bit of banter, you can enjoy what you can do? You go home and say, this was a good day. This was fun, we had excitement. So what we're trying to do, you know, I'll go now to some of the things we're trying to do. You know, 2015, government and industry got together and set out a 2025 strategy. It looked at what the future should be. It was all of the things around, you know, could we be quicker? Could we be cheaper? Could we be more sustainable? Can we improve exports? But in the last 5 years, we've learnt so much along the way. You know, and it's about how we deliver that change more radically. The sector deal came along too late, unfortunately, and partly down to our own downfall, because, you know, people in our industry mismanage themselves. You know, but a number of initiatives, it's about government and sector working together to make changes, be more productive, be more innovative, be more diverse. And these things about, you know, we've laid out a challenge within the sector deal. And the other thing, going on to my research theme, look at what automotive have done. You know, we got 175 million from government. Automotive got 1.5 billion. It was their third attempt. But actually, you know, things they're driving, you know, and it is a joined up strategy. What we still don't have is a long-term joined up strategy. And that's where we need people to talk about this, to drive that change. Shortly after I got involved with the Construction Leadership Council, and I got involved quite honestly because the industry wasn't going to support the CITB. And I phoned up Andrew Wilson and said, this is not a good thing, Andrew. We need to support the CITB. Because if we don't, what's the alternative? We don't have an alternative. So let's get behind what we have. So we launched the strategy and action plan, and we focused on 3 core themes around attracting people into our industry, recruitment and retention. So that was theme number 1. Apprenticeships and training, and how we could improve that. And exploring what the future needs of the industries are. And please look out for a report at the end of this month, because we'll be publishing what we think the future of the industry should be looking at. So with private companies, trade bodies, it's so important that we recognise the industry can pull together through its trade bodies. There is clear evidence that, you know, we are moving the skills, moving the agenda forward around skills, diversity, inclusion at every level. But also what we now have is a voice. We're able to work with the DFE, IFA, Home Office to identify what we need to change. Now, whether they're all listening at the moment, I can't say. But what I can say is, when you get DFE and IFA in a room and say, we need to sort out the apprentice levy and standards, when I first met them, it was talking of 26 weeks to get a standard approved. You can now get it done in 48 hours. The issue is around, when you understand the issues, it's around funding, and that's what we need to do, is understand the funding, and then we can unlock it. So these plans we're setting out around the whole things around diversity, inclusion, you know, developing a campaign. What Stephen said, what's our careers campaign? You know, these are all important. And I think, as Ruby said earlier, you know, the leadership needs to come from the top. If we're not prepared to talk about our industry, who is? If we're not prepared to stand up in front of people and say what we're going to do differently, no one else is going to do it for us. So never be afraid at any level of your career or not to stand up and say, we need to change, and this is how we can do things better. So just really to conclude, and I have hopefully allowed a little bit of time for questions, we need to get our story out there. Tell the story better. Go Construct and the partnership between Build UK and CITB for inspiring construction, is really important. Get behind that. Go out to schools. Become a construction ambassador. Promote what you do. Be proud of what you do. And that way, people will start wanting to come to our industry. So thank you very much. I hope we've got time for some questions.
Do we have any questions from the room from all? Plenty. We'll take one down at the front first, please.
Hiya, I'm Katie Keller. It's just a quick one, really. It's about work-life balance on site. I go to a lot of meetings with a lot of different people, and everyone has a lot of great ideas, and they all pat themselves on the back for flexible working, etc., etc. But none of this transfers down onto a site level. It just doesn't happen. And how do we attract young people into an industry where we're saying you have to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, you don't get until 7, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night, you'll do the same the day after, and you're expected to work Saturdays? What are we changing on site in order to make this more attractive to everyone?
Yeah, I agree on that one. And one thing I would say is email the CEO, because he or she will go, do you know what? In the scale of things, you're missing the point. And I get that. By the way, I'll tell a point in my career, my early career. I used to do a lot of competitive swimming. And I couldn't get to site at 8 o'clock in the morning. And I wanted to leave at 4:30 to go training. And I spoke to the MD, and he said, Mark, get on with it. Never be afraid to ask. And if you don't get the answer from the right person, email the top of the organisation. And if actually, and I hate to say this, if the top of the organisation isn't going to help you, then it's probably the wrong organisation you're working for. You don't work for Mace, do you?
So I think there were some more hands. We'll take one in here.
Doreen Aiken from BAM Nuttall. I'm a STEM ambassador, do a lot of careers events. And often it is a hard job getting over to people who haven't even considered civil engineering, what opportunities there are. And quite often we start off by saying, well, what have you thought about doing? And I've noticed, and it's sort of got bells ringing with me, that a lot of young girls are saying they want to be criminal pathologists. And that is because of the influence of television and drama. And why, I mean, the only drama that I can think of with construction is our feeder saying pet, which is, shows how old I am. But why can we not push for a good drama about construction that promotes all of these issues?
Yeah, I can talk about a lot of dramas in construction. No, I think that's a really good point, and that's some of the things that there is the fun element of this. There's a way you want to engage with people. So, I think there's some brilliant work done around, publicising Tideway or Heathrow or, Crossrail on TV, but they're documentaries, and they need to change from documentaries to something else. Unfortunately, people used to see it as a joke industry, and I think we need to turn it into something which is much more transformational. So I think, I agree, by the way, and the only way to do that is by talking to these people. And if we were to, get someone in the BBC, and, we meet all of these people day in, day out. There is not a person in society that I would say most of us don't come in contact with, be it the performing arts, be it banking, be it any sector, and certainly across the business. If you were to get people in the room from the top 10 CEOs in the construction and consultancy companies and say to them, can you go and speak to someone at the BBC about that? And by the way, it's 100 years of the BBC in 2022. Well, wouldn't it be good to have a really great flagship programme? So it's not difficult. We need to do that. And that's where it's turning, the Olympics is a prime example as the enabler to do things. And, I just think sometimes we don't think about them. It's not on our radar. But the more we talk about it, and it's putting an email out there, or 4 emails, or 10 emails, and saying we're getting behind this. I know BAMNet will do some brilliant work. One of the things I scrapped from the slide was the work you're doing on the South Pole. It's really exciting stuff. If you want to change science, then in order to do that, someone's got to go out there and build the thing. We're just doing brilliant stuff. We just don't promote it in the right way.
So on that line, agree with an awful lot that you said there. Sorry, Jack, you ready for the microphone? Sorry.
I'm overrunning lunch. You okay about me overrunning for 5 minutes?
Hello. On that line, and I totally agree with a lot of things you're saying there, we don't promote it, even ourselves, to our close family and the rest of it. Why isn't there an advert for civil engineering? The Army have got an advert, and they only employ, Army, Navy and Air Force, only employ 15% of what is employed in this industry.
Yeah. In fairness, Steve, you got that presentation for me tomorrow morning, haven't you? Do you want to answer that one? I like putting him on the spot.
Well, we are going to, we've started to do some research into the motivations of young people, and that research will inform the approach that we adopt when we begin the campaign. Soft launch in August, but really going for it in January. And it's really looking at what really speaks and connects and resonates with them. And once we've done all that, I will be tracking the impact that's having as well on a regular basis. And the view is, if we can not only engage people with the campaign and direct them to progress their interest through work experience and so on and so forth, I think we'll get to a really good place where we can start to see really good returns on our investment on the campaign, but also retaining people within the sector as well. So the conversations we're having today around work experience, around developing a real narrative about construction, it's not just about building bricks, it's about transforming people's lives. And if you can get that narrative right and have opportunities that we can direct people to, I think we'll be onto a really positive outcome.
Can I just pick on one point there? It's really difficult.
Could you share a story with you? A very quick story with you?
Yes, of course.
When I started in civil engineering, not construction, not that I'm biased, I worked for Leonard Fairclough up in the northwest. That's north of Watford. A lot of people probably don't know that. Looking back, it was absolutely fantastic. There was apprentices across at every level. Didn't realise how good it was. But on a Saturday morning, everyone brought their sons to work. Steel fixers, joiners, plant ops. And the next generation of plant ops specifically was because young lads at 14, 15 used to come and clean the machines on a Saturday morning, fuel them up, grease them, etc. So they got a grounding. When certain things kicked in on safety, which I totally agree with, that got stopped overnight. Now for, let's say 5 years, but it's more like 35 years, I've been looking for that hook for plant ops. What is the hook to get kids interested in our industry? Especially today when it's 3D modelling. Machines drivers are pilots and they're very, very scarce. So I've come across, I've not got any shares in this business or any interest other than I think it's massively beneficial to the industry. Come across a simulator product where you can teach people to drive, and it's an absolute fantastic toy. It's a game for kids. And I'd like you to consider that when you're looking at it. Done a lot of work with it. We're taking it into schools and getting kids sat in it just to give them that hook. And then tell them, do you know you can earn 50 grand a year doing that? And you know the hours can be flexible. Because everyone's doing a lot of great stuff, but I don't think a lot of it's getting out there. So I really, really would support anything to do with an advert out there that just sells this brilliant, brilliant, broad industry and all the diverse opportunities, including jobs like we don't talk about, CAD. You know, ladies could have a career in CAD. They can work from home. They don't even need to come to site. You know, I think we've just got to get it out there, but we've got to get it out there at a bigger level if we can.
Just to pick on one of the things that I think is quite important to recognise is that the industry has about 60,000 people going through training programs a year. Only 30,000, well, less than that, 20,000 get taken up. I think that figure's about right. Someone will pick me up on that. Is that right? It is about that. So it isn't about just it's actually having the right training programs so that we've got continuity to actually absorb the people that actually want to come in the industry. And there is some faults around the wrong type of training, and that goes back to the wrong. It's funding. You know, it took FMB, you know, well over 18 months to get the bricklayer standard approved, not because of the standard, because of the funding levels. You know, people don't appreciate a ground worker takes, it's not £4,000, which is the average for a training programme, what the government set. It's more like £11,000 to train a ground worker. So these funding levels need to be, you know, pushed hard in order to get the right training, so people are work ready when they come out of it. So you know.
No, I'll probably call it quits there, because we do actually have to get you all fed at lunchtime, and given there's 200 of you, I'm afraid I think we could have gone on for another half hour there. Can we all thank Mark for what was, I think, a brilliant. Now, we will be starting again at 1:45, hence why I was trying to quite keep to get you through. Lunch is outside, but the next sessions, if you have a look in your event document, they're in the Burnett and Maynard suites. There are directions for them outside. One final thing, you all have a sticker on your badge. Someone's going to shout to me what colour. One of the colours is for if you are being videoed. So orange, there you go. So if you have an orange.
Or yellow, but orange first.
There you go. So if you are happy to be videoed.
Red first, sorry. Red first, yellow as well. You will be able to.
It's a professional approach from Seeker here today. Thank you very much. Enjoy your lunch.